us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, I did want you to start off by kind of explaining the Make Gaza Great Again Act and what it would do.
Yeah, so when you look at, we are in a global landscape, a global economy, and what you're seeing with President Trump and his administration is to move aggressively and quite frankly, signaling to our partners that, hey, look, if you are truly willing to work towards solutions, we want to talk to you. So whether it was a 25% tariffs with as it regards to Canada and Mexico. So a lot of people know about the drugs flowing out of Mexico into the United States, but a lot of people don't realize there's a huge fentanyl population or a pipeline rather flowing from Canada into the U.S. And so as the president moves forward, as he worked with Colombia to, again, look, we have these illegals, we're going to repatriate them to your country. This is the type of conversation that we're now having with Gaza, Hamas, and of course, Israel or the Palestinians. And so it's tough talk. And the signal is to Jordan and to Egypt. You have been talking about lasting peace in the Middle East. You've been talking about the plight of the Palestinians for decades, and yet you really haven't come to the table year after year, decade after decade. It's the United States and Israel standing alone trying to fix a broken area of the world that, quite frankly, they should be taking ownership of and fixing themselves. And so what you see here is the president saying, come to the table, let's have an adult conversation, and let's find a pathway to prosperity and to peace. And if you don't, we are going to sanction you, whether it's economic sanctions, whether it's regarding your visas, or quite frankly, your aid to your country. And so this is what's happening. And what my bill does is codifies those actions for the president as he moves forward. And quite frankly, the world is better when Israel, the Middle East, and quite frankly, globally, we have peace. These flare-ups around the world, these wars around the world are not good for our economy. It's not good for the middle class. It's not good for you and I.
What has the reaction been so far from other lawmakers? Is it based on party lines, or what are you hearing?
Well, obviously, whether it's Republicans, Democrats, or independents, the approach might be different. But I think everyone agrees we want peace in the Middle East. We want peace with Israel, or Israel needs peace in its region. And so October 7th, there was a horrific terrorist attack that was perpetrated by rapists and murderers. Those individuals should be punished. They should be hunted to the ends of the earth and, quite frankly, driven into the sea, to borrow a phrase from their culture. But that being said, is at the end of the day, what we're wanting is peace. Look, if there was a rogue group across the border in Mexico that was lobbing rockets or raids into Texas, we would occupy Mexico City within 48 hours, and we may or may not give it back. Israel has a right to defend itself. I said that in the beginning after October 7th, quite frankly, before October 7th, and I say it today. Israel has a right to defend itself, and that's what we're doing. That's what my legislation does, is it puts in place those political, those financial, those economic mechanisms for the president of the United States to push us towards lasting peace. Quite frankly, what I hope to see is historic peace in the Middle East.
And I have to ask, because, of course, this is your act here. What made you want to be part of this? What made you want to step up and say, this is what I am going to do. I need to be a part of this?
Well, so, last Congress, I hold the record for the most pieces of legislation offered by any freshman in history. I hold the record for any freshman, the most legislation passed out of the House of any freshman in history. So I'm a very prolific legislator. About a third of my legislation is in that foreign policy, homeland security space. I'm on the Homeland Security Committee. So this is right in my wheelhouse. And as someone, many of us who are close to the president, allies of the president, so anything we can do to codify what the president's doing. So obviously there's a lot of action, quite frankly, historic amounts of action, volume, executive orders coming out of the White House. But what you want to see as we move forward in the coming months is those executive orders be codified or turned into law, so that as we move forward, that this mechanism, this ability to sanction any country that's not a true participant in peace in the Middle East can be sanctioned by the United States of America. So that is the process. So that's why I've got the Make Greenland great again bill. It's not we're not going to invade Greenland, but what it does is if Greenland wants a path to self-determination, wants to become a protectorate of the United States, it opens the door to having those conversations. Look, as the Arctic Circle becomes more active, as those shipping lanes become more active, either Russia, China, or the United States is going to be the dominant player up there. And I'm guessing the folks in Greenland would prefer to have the United States as their best friend versus one of these other predatory nations. And so what you've seen is my kind of book of legislation for this 119th Congress, or this new Congress, is to be supportive of the president, to rally with and around the president to make sure that his intent becomes law, and that America is, quite frankly, we're leading through strength, and we're being very proactive both on the domestic and the foreign policy front.
My last question for you here. As always, when there's a piece of legislation, there's some misconceptions that go around that people post on, let's say, social media or just word of mouth. So what do you want to make sure to clarify about all of this for people out there?
Well, so I think what you're seeing, both the president's own words is that he would like for Jordan and Egypt to take a greater role in resettlement and finding a peaceful place for the Palestinians to live, because there's going to be a very long period of rebuilding that's going to have to take place in Gaza. And so this is going to take time. And in that time, the Palestinians can find a new home, and you can create a buffer, if you will, for the Israeli people and for the Palestinians, so that we can truly have lasting peace in the Middle East. Look, the Palestinians have proven to be, let's be honest, not a good actor when it comes to their neighbor Israel. And so it's time to find a new pathway, a new solution. That's what the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is talking about. That's what my bill seeks to do. And the president is going to have the tools to be proactive in making sure that the Middle East is, quite frankly, safe again.
All right, Congressman Andy Ogles there of Tennessee, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. Anything else you want to add before I let you go?
Well, what I'll just say is, President Donald Trump has set a historic pace in this new Congress in his second term. I would look to see that continue. And so, at times it can be hard to keep up. But what I will say is that the world is on notice. America is back. The golden age of the United States is reborn, and we truly will make America great again with President Donald Trump.
All right, Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And I do want to take